Hello and welcome back to Reconnect TV episode 31. Sorry, just I'll get myself in a comfortable position. Had a bit of a slightly different camera setup this morning because I want to actually show you some dowsing and how we locate the energy power centre in your home, your office, which we're going to be talking about. So I didn't realise how difficult actually. I need another camera. Setting things up, I need an overhead camera, which is on my bucket list now. But yeah, we've come on today to talk about the subtle energy power centre in your home or your office. Now, for those of you who don't know me, my name's Faye Semple, and I am the spiritual geomancer to female entrepreneurs, leaders and change makers. Now, I can hear the deathly silence of the word geomancer. A geomancer is someone who taps into the subtle energy of the planet, of the cosmos, and we use that information to harmonise and heal environments such as your home or your business so that you are operating in the optimum space. These spaces will help you heal, they'll help you expand your awareness, and they'll help you function at your optimum, both consciously and subconsciously. You work in sync with the energy of your environment. We know that everything is energy. The whole of the universe is just energy, and anybody into law of attraction and manifestation knows how important energy is. But the thing that a lot of that sort of places the burden of responsibility or the burden of action entirely on your shoulders, and yet the entire universe is conscious. So a geomancer like myself enables my clients to tap into that field of information, to that field of consciousness, and use this subtle energy to really accelerate their growth. There's massive expansion of your awareness is capable when you tap into these subtle energy fields. Now, I know a lot of people don't believe in these subtle energy fields. Again, I would say, a belief is just a belief. It's not written in stone. But we do know that the earth is surrounded and subtle energy fields are everywhere. So a lot of scientists, the universe, there are some people who say, oh, well, it can't be measured by scientists. But the earth has a plethora of electromagnetic spectrum and other fields that interact. And those interactions, those possibilities are infinite. The universe is not a done deal. We don't understand everything about the universe. And just because we don't understand how something works, doesn't mean that it doesn't. It just means that science hasn't caught up yet. So I wanted to talk to you about how we access those subtle energies and how you can do it in your own home. Now, as I said, the earth is surrounded and permeated by these subtle energy fields. And dowsers and geomancers like myself tap into those fields, those energy layers, those forms to create and harmonise our environment so that we're just living in frequency fields that enhance and enable us to progress as people, to go on our soul's path, which sounds, and it's great. I can 100% vouch for it. But how do we actually do it? Not many people are aware of dowsing, and if they are, they can be extremely skeptical because it gets a very bad press. If you want to know how it works, I think I did a live a couple of weeks ago sort of explaining about mind fields, the conscious universe, how energy is information and how our subconscious mind extracts that energy, and how we're able as dowsers to create that energy as information into something useful that we can act upon practically in our daily life. We're all, a lot of us, anybody who meditates know that sometimes, or if you go into altered states of consciousness and have sort of slightly hallucinogenic experiences, they're great, they're fantastic, but they don't necessarily, we have difficulty transferring them into practical action in our daily life that's going to make a difference to what we're doing each day in our conscious mind, which is quite limited. So, as I say, the earth is cobwebbed, if you like. There's a myriad cobweb of all different subtle energy lines and forms that go over the whole of the globe. Now, some of these lines are massive and they cross continents, and some of them will only be tiny and may only be this long and that thick, and they will be permeating through your house everywhere. Now, when certain energy patterns coincide, we get what we call sacred sites. Now, ancient man has built, you know, it might be Sedona, it might be where the pyramids are, it might be Callanish, Stonehenge, Machu Picchu, any kind of sacred site around the world corresponds to where certain formations of these subtle energy fields correspond. And we saw those on a societal level as extremely important for creating the environment in which everything can thrive. Us, plants, animals, us on a physical level and us on a soul level. So these sacred sites are incredibly important. But obviously, we don't all have a sacred site in our living room, or do we? Now, it all depends on scale. So huge sacred sites are on a macro scale where all these big energy formations coincide. But your home or your office has an energy power center, because these subtle energies that permeate the earth, if you like, are the earth's consciousness. The earth is conscious and she's listening and she's waiting for us to engage with her. So I'm not going to drive to Stonehenge every day or my nearest stone circle roll rights to do that every day, because all the earth is conscious and all the earth is sacred. So I can do that from my own home. Now, these energies interact with human consciousness. When we start to observe them, when we start to plot them, when we start to interact with them, they respond. They can change shape, they can manifest formations. It's not, they don't think in language, it's all energy and it's all frequency. So you have an energy power center in your home that is created by you and your family's interaction with the earth. Now, human focus, human attention is the thing that these energy centers respond to. So for most people, that energy power center, depending how you live your life, obviously, but for a lot of people in modern homes, that energy power center is in front of the television, because we all sit there in a row on a sofa, if you're that kind of family, and watch the television. And it's detached attention, if you like. It's we're not living in our own head. We're not sat there worrying about the future that hasn't happened yet, or allowing ourselves to become crippled by the past that's been holding us back all our lives. We are attention for that moment when we're absorbed in something on the television or interested in something. We release all those past and future energy blocks, if you like, that are keeping us stuck in our life of scarcity or lack of success or not good relationships, because we're holding on to patterns, energy blocks from the past, and they are informing how our future manifests. But while we're watching the television, or if you're a bookie family reading a book, or if you work a lot of computer, your home office, for instance, that focus of that intention is slightly different. You're particularly with television and reading, because you're taken out of your own head. You go into another state of awareness. I forgot to say, if you're watching today, if you're watching live, hashtag live, if you're watching on replay, or just give me a hi, give me a wave, let me know where you're from. So I know who's here, because again, my comments don't seem to be putting up. So you all have an energy power center in your house. Right now, I know not everybody is a dowser. Some people are more sensitive. I'm very fortunate that I see these energies real, visually, 3D. So it's something I've always been able to do. So for me, they're much easier to spot. But if you can't see them, there are sort of dowsing is the first easiest way. It forms it's a bit of a crutch, really, because once you develop your sensitivity, whatever that may be, maybe you're clairaudient, clairsentient, clairvisual, whatever that may be, if you can develop your own sensitivity, it might be just with feeling with your hands, you will be able to pick up these energy centers. But for those people who aren't quite so sensitive, dowsing is a really useful tool to enable you to start to locate these energy centers. So what I have here today is a little plan. Now, it doesn't really matter what's on the plan. This is just somebody's home office that I'm just having a bit of a look at for them. Now, the plan is there. You've got the desk. Person sits here, deals with their clients here. It's just an armchair, corner unit, window, and loads of units around the wall where all the paperwork's kept. So there's nothing particularly smashing. The door comes in there. Now, what this person wants me to do is to find the power center, but you can do this yourself. This is sort of a client's garden office kind of thing. So we're just working on how we can enhance the power centre, so we can enhance her productivity, her intuition, how she can get answers to when she's searching for answers about herself, her life and her business. And as I say, energy is information. What you want to achieve is all out there. It's all in potential if you manifest the right frequency to attract to you what you want. Now, the Earth's energy is part of that manifestation process. So if we can tap into that energy, then we can accelerate that manifestation. We can create massive expansion in our awareness. So if you're new to dowsing, you can do this on site as well. It's only because I'm not going to be walking around my living room showing showing you where mine is, because it'd be difficult to film, and it's just, so I'm just going to do it remotely, because one of the things I do is, obviously I work with clients all around the world. Information dowsing can be performed anywhere. You don't have to be on site. Now, if you want to do this on site, you can do it on site. I'm doing it what they call remotely, because I'm not there. I'm never going to, I may visit one day, but so I do it off drawings, off plans, or off photographs, and we identify the energy, and then I help the client by mentoring them on how to do any remedial work that is required to rebalance the energies when they've gone out of harmony. And that disharmony is often created through human activity, so mining, road building, all sorts of things, dams, all sorts of things that interfere. When we start to manipulate our environment, that's when these energies go out of balance. So I mentor women and show them through one-to-one coaching how to rebalance that energy, and how then to use that as a platform to tap into their subconscious and cosmic consciousness. So, how to locate the power centre in your field. As I say, if you were really there and you have a dowsing tool, then you can do it on site. Now, if you're doing it on site, there are two tools probably that you could use. On this one, the dowsing tool that I would recommend would be an L-rod, which is this gadget here. I'm actually going to be using a pendulum, because I'll be using both actually. I'll use both. So this is a dowsing pendulum. Now, it doesn't have to be anything fancy. If you want to have a go at this later at home, it doesn't have to be anything fancy. And one of the common pendulums I use outside is just a nut on a piece of cotton. Doesn't have to be anything swanky. And anybody who's had to do emergency dowsing will also realise that you can make an L-rod out of a metal coat hanger. These are made by a friend of mine called Graham, and this is a sleeved rod, because it has a sleeve that rotates freely around the shaft, but you don't have to do that. It's just that's the one I'm more comfortable with. So these are L rods. I'm not in the best position to be dowsing, because stood up you want your L rod sort of down waist height, so I'm not in the best position to use this. But if you wanted to do this live in your own home and you've never dowsed before, I would recommend on this occasion using one rod. And the question you would ask yourself, because you're asking your own intuition, you want to get the rod to point, is you ask it simply to point to the energy centre in your home, which mine is in this room over there. And I work with them in many rooms. There's one, because this is an office. It functions as other things as well. So my energy centre is over there. So what you then want to do, so an energy centre to me appears as a large vortex of energy. So it's a bit like an ice cream cone. It gets narrower and the energy vortices out and gets wider and wider and wider as it goes up. So you're looking at sort of that kind of shape. There's beautiful energy in them, great symmetry. And they have what we call radial lines coming off, which is little sort of lines that quiver, that come out of the outside. What you can do when you can walk around, I'm going to demonstrate on this map, you walk around, you can work out how many radial lines you've got. Now, the other thing that energy power centres are often not used for is they're often a way to tap into elemental consciousness. Now, again, I know this could be challenging for some people's belief system, but if everything is energy and everything is conscious, as quantum physics tells us, then it doesn't take a great leap of logic to think that there may possibly be other consciousnesses present in the universe that are not human, if you like. Now, historically, all cultures have had a belief system in things like elves, pixies, fairies, nature spirits, the consciousness of nature that represents the divinity in nature from the divine source. Now, the one thing about vortices is that they're often a doorway into that level of elemental consciousness. Now, sacred sites in Ireland and England often have what they call outlying stones, which are great big stones that are set off from the alignments that just sort of appear to be cast randomly about, and they can have various carvings on them. When I was a child, I visited Newgrange, and it wasn't my first experience of the elemental realm, because I've always been able to communicate with them. But what I realised was that a lot of these outliers sat on these vortexes, and when you sit on them, it's like the bottom drops out of the world, is the best way of describing it. It's as if you're looking down into this enormous cavernous space, is what it feels like, populated by this other consciousness who are looking back at you. And they are the elemental beings that manifest the real world about us. They are concerned with the condition of matter, if you like. It's their job to make sure the world perpetuates and keeps going, and things keep manifesting, and animals keep breeding, and trees keep growing. They are the masters of manifestation. We talk about us manifesting our future and manifesting our life. We don't have to build the basic building blocks of reality, which is what they do. And these vortices are a way of tapping into that consciousness. Now, everything has spirit, if you like. So money has spirit. Your business has a spirit. Your home has a spirit. And this vortex, this energy power center, is also a way of tapping into that consciousness so that you can have conversations with it, if you like. So how do you locate it? Well, I have a map here. Like I said, if in reality, I would walk into a room and I would hold my dowsing rod and I would say, point to the energy power center of this room. And then I would approach it from several directions so that I know that when I get to the center, what will probably happen, if I just put my hand over the energy center in this office, if you like, so I'm changing my focus to the remote office, that when my finger, because this is how I do it, when my finger hits the center of the energy center, then, then my rod will start to rotate, and it will let me know that that's the energy center of that. So that if you try that in your living room, or probably in front of your telly, or if you're a reader, it'll probably be in front of your chair where you sit and read all your books. You have a go and see what reactions you get. Now, you can plot the radials around the energy center. So if I put my finger and find the center of the, see, I see a 3D image on the paper, so it's a bit easier for me. So the energy center, so then I'll come out of the side and there's nothing there. So now I go around it and I want to know how many radials there are. So I move my finger in a circle around this energy vortex to find out how many radials they are. There's different ways of working with them, which we're not going to cover today. But when you get to one, your rod will probably do that, and then I move off it and it'll go away again. And then I move around and it'll come back when I hit the next one. So you would count how many radial lines. Now, I'm working on radial lines and how to work with those as well. But I say we're not gonna talk about that today. So, but if you were doing it on a drawing, so let's say you have an office, or you're sat at work now and you're on your own, and you want to draw a quick drawing of your living room. And you can plot it out. You can draw a square and go, that's where the door is, and that's where the TV is, and that's, or you've got an office like this one. Now you can use a pendulum, which is quite. This is a weighty pendulum, because I quite like a heavy pendulum. Now you don't have to use a posh pendulum when I'm outside or dowsing like equine establishments, the equine businesses, because that's one of my other things that I like to do. So racehorse stables and things like that, to look at the energy of them, to make sure that the energy that the animals are stabled and working in is conducive to their health more than anything else, because they're the ones that have to perform, and it's a hard industry. So while they're in it, we want them as healthy and as well cared for as possible. And I'm fortunate to work in establishments that care greatly for their animals, otherwise they wouldn't invest the level that they invest in me to do the things that I'm asking them to do in terms of energy balancing. So So that's the other one that I use. It's simpler. You can just go in your garage or your shed and find a nut and thread some cotton through it. I just make a loop of cotton, thread it through, then through one end of the cotton through the loop, so it just comes off nice and easy. So again, if you want to plot it out and you're at work and there's nobody looking and you have to happen to have a pendulum on you, or you can use a necklace if it's got a nice thin chain. It doesn't have to be anything in particular to find the energy power center. So as I say, what I do is I tend to, let me move it back this way a little bit, is I tend to come at it from all four corners. So I'd move my hand in and thinking about a line, if you like, so I can locate it on the line, which I'd put my pendulum into what we call the search position. And then I want what is my yes response when I get near to the energy power center. So I move my finger across until I get to, it starts to go into a yes when I've located the energy power center. Now I would do that from that angle, that angle, that angle, and that angle till I had marked a spot that I was happy with where all things converged. And again, you can find the radials by going out at the outside. But this power center, this energy power center, so as I say, it makes sense in this office for it to be here, because the focus of this person's attention is working with their customers. So there's an interaction going on, but their focus is on here. So the power center is created here, and it's our focus, our power center, our focus of our intent that the earth responds to create that center. If we move that office around, and let's say this became an office for therapy, and you had like a sofa here, you know, a chair here and a chair here, and there was counselling going on between those two people or some kind of therapy, the power centre would probably shift and put itself between the two. This is a female entrepreneur's office, and this is where she meets face-to-face clients, but it's also where she holds all her online coaching sessions through Zoom and things like that, like I do. And the power centre is being created behind it, because that's the focus of where our intent is. So how do we use these power centres? Now, there are various ways of using these power centres because these energies fluctuate. These energies fluctuate seasonally in terms of solar activity, so they're widest when we're at the longest day, and they can shrink back a little bit to the shortest day. Power centres, because they're involved in our intent, don't necessarily do that quite so much, but they do fluctuate, and they also fluctuate with the new moon. Now, I use mine in my home to access the other levels of consciousness in nature, and I have rituals at the new moon on that centre often, where I state clearly my goals and intentions for the month ahead, and I ask them for support in creating those goals. Now, they are quite happy to support you if your business and your passion is helping other people, it's lifting levels of consciousness, it's changing humankind's condition. I'm passionate about people developing their awareness, but I'm equally passionate about enhancing these energies so that the environment can thrive. You know, the planet and nature spirits are in crisis at the moment with the deplorable way we plunder the earth and use it as resources, which we see the backlash of all the time, environmental disasters that are occurring. So if you can work, we don't as a society anymore. In ancient times, there's a culture where all these ancient sacred sites were often going simultaneously, and they went for thousands of years. So it was a worldwide system. We don't have that system anymore. So my mission is the more people I get working on their little patch, sooner or later those patches will start to link up. And when I used to work in agriculture a lot, if I got a farm to do it, when I got the neighbouring farm also on board, when they saw the results of the first farm, they went, how have you done that? How are you using less water? How have you managed to reduce all these crop sprays and agrochemicals yet produced a better crop? So they would then look at the farm that I'd worked on, then I'd get the neighbouring farm. And when you had a bigger patch, bigger land to work on, then you didn't sort of get 2 times the result, you got 10 times the result or 50 times the result. But now my focus has shifted slightly, so I help female entrepreneurs who've got heart-centered, soul-aligned businesses. I want to help spread their message and help other people or help other women. Then, that's the next phase of humankind's development. It's a time for the feminine to come to the fore. It's a time for women's voices to be heard. What I do know is that more women with more wealth will change the world. It will change our power base, and women deal with wealth very differently. It's a much more of a collaborative sharing element to women. So women with more money in the world is only a better thing. And women are incredibly poor about talking about money and often have extremely poor money mindsets. And this power center can also help you with that, because you can clearly state your affirmations, what you want at the full moon. I have a clear set of goals each month, what I want to achieve, and I ask for support in achieving those. I ask for synchronistic happenings. I ask the universe to present me with opportunities to achieve those goals. Now, those opportunities may come as the form of tests and challenges, which make me look at my own limited beliefs and do something about them. But that power center is a way of accelerating that experience. It's also where I do yoga nidra, which alters your states of consciousness so that you're able to really tap into that subconscious mind, because that is really the governor of our reality. Because our feelings are all held in our subconscious. And if we feel worthless and if we don't feel abundant, real deep down, then we're not going to attract it. And for a lot of women, that is a deep held issue because of the fractured nature of society and this disrespect for the sacred feminine in both environmental levels and in women. So it's in women's interests, particularly, to tap back into these subtle realms and step into their personal power and their societal power. So tomorrow I'm going to be live in my group, Divine Feminine CEOs, and I'm going to be talking to you in depth about how I use my power center in my business. And I'm going to give you some hints and tips and practical things that you can take away with when you use yours. But for today, if you like, my tip to you is to go and your practical task is to have a go at locating your own power center. You can use it either by dowsing. If you're particularly sensitive, you can use your hands, or if you see energy like I do, then you can use it to, sorry, I've just seen Linda's comment. Comments have just started coming up and I was like, oh, confused, brain explode. You know, can I do one thing at once? See me age. So touched on the point there for you. Yeah, women's power and money. Yeah, and this subtle energy, if you like, is the sacred feminine. It is the divine feminine of the earth. It is the divine feminine consciousness. So women particularly, it is in our interest to tap back in to that sacred feminine. The world used to be matriarchal, not patriarchal. There's been a demise. I'm not anti-men, by the way, because there are so many men that are into all this stuff, and I still coach men as well. They're just on a separate program than the women, if you like. So because I don't do so many, and it's more one-to-one, and they douse and see the world very differently than women. So I have to talk in male language to the men, whereas I talk in female language to the women, because our drivers are very different. The way we perceive reality is very different. Our emotions are very different. Our emotional landscape and how we work is very different. So we interact with these energies very differently. So what works for women doesn't always work for men. And there are differences in location, even places. Look at the Aboriginal culture. There were centres where women only went to and centres where men only went to, because the energy supported women in that place and it supported men in that place. So it's about being in the right place. So tapping in and understanding the subtle energy that is in your home, that is in your office, that surrounds you, how you can tap into those levels of consciousness and use it to accelerate your growth, your manifestation, to attract the things that you want to, has a very real effect in your life and your business. And as I say, for women, particularly one of my passions is really helping women step into their personal power, because so many women play second fiddle. So many women start a business but have to fit it round their domestic commitments. And, you know, it's the reality for a lot of women. I mean, I myself, I say, was in a domestic abusive relationship for over 12 years. And, yeah, was in effect a skivvy. You know, I had to anticipate and meet my husband's needs above anything else. And my sole focus was on doing that to protect myself and my children, which left me pretty broken by the end of it. So now, I had always seen these energies and always seen these consciousnesses. And, you know, the urge was, while I looked at them and when I spoke to them and I communicated them, it was kind of like despair on their part. It was like, you know, woman up, you know, I would say grow a pair, but we don't, but, you know, grow a pair appear then, you know, and embody feminine power. And, you know, I thought, well, I wasn't born with this ability to see energies and communicate at this level and to be able to astrally project down ley lines and things like that, which I've always done. I thought, I can't sit here any longer and pretend that isn't who I am, because I'm not being true to myself. So I have always worked as a geomancer and dowser most of my life, but I hadn't stepped up and used it in this way. And this is what, along with business coaching, has completely accelerated my growth, my life, and changed everything about my reality. So, task today or tonight, if you want to have a go, is locate the energy power centre in your home or in your office or where you think that might be pertinent. And tomorrow in my group, Divine Feminine CEOs, I will be giving you some practical things that you may want to try out on your power centre to help you manifest your short-term and your long-term goals. So I hope you've enjoyed that. Yeah, I haven't, again, Facebook doesn't, it's only when I go offline that I see who's joined me. So yeah, I'm going to have to fumble with the camera now and move the table while I get off. You want to see my table's propped up on 4 tins at the kitchen cupboard because I realised it wasn't the same height, you know, the reality of life. So yeah, I'll see you all next week, and yeah, I'll speak to you soon. Take care, and if I can't get my button to go off, then you'll have to excuse me for a moment while I cancel everything. All right, okay, bye.